Good day, poker peeps. This is Sky with Smart Poker Study, and in this video, we're going to go over my results from a full month of raise or fold only poker. This is something that I challenged myself for the entire month of June, and I challenged my audience to 3 days of this as well. If you want to check out that first challenge podcast with the challenge page, all the details, go to smartpokerstudy.com/pod393. Now, to start this off, or for this video, I'm going to show all of my different statistical and win rate results. Plus, we have a few hands to go through to help you, to help me illustrate some of the tips I'm going to give you to do this challenge for yourself. Now, upon completing the challenge, my main takeaways was that I absolutely loved this challenge. It is amazing not calling, not putting yourself in as many out of position spots, not capping your range all the time by calling, avoiding those 3-bet squeezes because you're not calling. There's so much great that comes with not calling, right? Remember, it's a raise or fold only challenge, so no calling pre-flop. Now, this also taught me, I already knew that aggression wins in poker, but it helped me even more see that aggression wins. And when we look at some of my win rates, you're going to see that as well. And I also learned, and I've always known this, but you're going to learn if you do this challenge, that folding is okay. It's totally fine to exit hands, especially if you don't want to face that opponent. If you don't want to be out of position in the hand. If you really don't want to see the flop with Jack-8 suited, go ahead and fold, right? It is okay. I give you permission with this challenge to fold. One of the great things, though, is because you're not allowed to call, if you really want to play a hand, you have to 3-bet it. You have to force yourself to 3-bet, which trains you to think more about the benefits of 3-betting in any given spot against the opponent with a certain size, with the cards in your hand, with your position. All that stuff forces you to put more thought into 3-betting. Now let's take a look at a few choice statistics here. So I played all of this month on Ignition Poker, which is anonymous poker. Now I played 5,000 hands of raise or fold only, positive $60 in profits, positive 11 big blinds per 100 hands win rate. Awesome profitability. In the 18,000 hands before this 5,000, I was up $143. Nice profits right there. But my win rate was only 5.9. And that was when, of course, I had a lot more calling 2 bets, calling 3 bets after open raising in my game. But by changing to this all aggression style of play, I almost doubled my win rate right here. Now, it is just 5,000 hands, so it is a relatively small sample. But I know from my experience in doing this, I kind of don't ever want to go back to calling again, right? I absolutely love this style of play. Now, taking a look at a few choice statistics here, my 2-bet and then fold to 3-bet, because once again, not allowed to call. It went from folding 73% of the time to folding 83%. So I folded a little bit more often, and this is going to lead into one of the tips I'm going to give you and one of the hands we'll review later in the video. So, of course, just expect to fold to 3-bets more often. But here's the thing. My 3-bet before the challenge was at 6.4. It went up to 7.2. Not a huge jump, but it went up because I was looking for more opportunities to 3-bet because I wanted to play a hand, but I wasn't allowed to call. Now, my 3-bet success, I'm 3-betting more often, but my 3-bet success, which means that I 3-bet and everybody folded, it was 32% before. Now it's at 37%, so a bit more success even with more 3-bets. And a lot of those 3-bets are going to be with weaker hands because they're bluffs. I don't necessarily want to call, or I don't want to call, so I have to 3-bet. So it's kind of a bluffing hand. The fact that I'm succeeding more often is really good. My 3-bet steals, I was at 8% in the big blind before. I doubled it to 16%. Absolutely love it. Getting more aggressive. And in the small blind, roughly the same from 5.2 to now 4.4%. Folding to steal because I'm not calling, folding 90% of the time. Before, it was 86%. I had some calls in there out of the blinds. Now, when I get to the river and I face a bet, I was calling 51% of the time before. I'm sorry. Winning at Showdown after calling on the river, the 18,000 hands prior, I was winning 51% of the time. But now, because I'm the one doing the betting and I'm calling less often, I'm the one being the aggressor, I'm often getting to the river in better spots. So when I'm facing a bet and I'm calling, I'm winning at 73% of the time. Love that win rate. I'm sorry, that winning percentage increase right there. My overall win rate's really good in each of the positions. I'm positive in all of the non-blind positions. In the big blind, I went from a win rate of negative 59 big blinds to 100 hands to negative 17. What a huge improvement. If you folded every big blind, you'd be at negative 100. I'm only at negative 17 with my no calling and only 3 betting out of the big blind. Some of these hands, of course, are it's folded to me and I check the big blind, or limped to me, I guess I should say, and I check the big blind, or it's folded and I have a walk. But still, out of the big blind, negative 17 is good. Small blind, negative 28. If I folded every one, I'd be at negative 50. So it's not all that bad. It's a decent win rate right there. I would like it to be improved, but I could probably do some studying and improvement, some work on my small blind play. Now, VPIP and saw the flop in position, that was 55% of the time before. It jumped up to 63% of the time because a lot of my calls out of the blinds, actually none of those calls out of the blinds, I didn't make any, right? So I'm seeing the flop more often when I VPIP in position, 63% of the time. Out of position, I'm seeing it 37% of the time VPIPing. And that's just good in general because when you have that position, you got that advantage, that informational advantage over your opponents. Helps you win more pots. My win rate when in position went from 142 to positive 247. Lovely increase right there. Out of position, I was at positive 206 big blinds per 100 hands. Now it's at positive 418. So even though I'm out of position, I'm still making more money each time I VPIP and see the flop out of position. Loving that right there. Now this is a great thing, and this is why I really... this challenge helped to drive home the idea that aggression wins because I'm entering pots only as the aggressor. I'm only seeing, I'm only entering pots as the aggressor. It's all aggressive play. My win rate when I VPIP went from positive 128 to positive 194, about a 50% increase right there. And it's all aggression, right? So I decreased my passivity, increased my aggression, and my win rates increased as well. I'm telling you, aggressive poker is winning poker, and a raise or fold only game really helps with that. Now, my 2-bet and call 3-bet. I actually had some results here because there were 2 hands, a king-queen suited where I open raised, and another player shoved 6 big blinds into me. Of course I called, right? Another hand, I open raised with pocket jacks, an 11 big blind player shoved. Of course I called. So there were 2 instances, and those are the only times that you can call in this challenge is when somebody shoves into you and you don't want to fold. So I called both of those hands. I won the pocket jacks. My king queen lost against ace 10 offsuit. So whatever, but I'm still positive for those 2 3-bet calls that I made. Now, one of the great things is in the prior 18,000 hands, my win rate when calling was negative 84. But because I did not do any calling right now or during this 5,000 hands, no calling losses, which is lovely, right? Avoided all those ugly spots when you're calling and capping your range. Now, the last win rate result I want to talk about, in the prior 18,000 hands, calling on the river, I was at negative 266 big blinds per 100 hands. Now, with all aggression pre-flop, calling on the river, as you saw, I was winning 73% of the time this past 5,000 hands. Positive 751 big blinds per 100 hands. Because I'm the aggressor, this is really helping me get to the river in stronger spots. Maybe I'm bluffing the whole way, but then I catch on the river. Whatever happened, I can go through and review all these river calls, but I went from negative 266 to positive 751 with this all aggressive kind of play. Absolutely loved it. So now I have some tips for you. If you do decide to take me up on this challenge and do it for yourself, here are 4 tips along with some hands to review that kind of demonstrate all of these tips. The first thing, it truly is okay to fold. I am giving you permission. Too many of us, we hear that you got to defend your blinds. Jack 8 suited, ace 9 offsuit, that's worth defending. It truly isn't, especially when you're handing your opponent bread and butter. You call out of the big blind. You're giving them position. You've capped your range so you have a weaker range, and maybe they have a skill advantage. Who knows? But you're out of position with a crappy hand. You fold more often, you avoid that ugly spot, and you also give yourself more brain space to think about the other tables that you're playing, where maybe you have the opportunity to open raise, you have the opportunity to 3-bet. Because you didn't defend in a crappy spot, you can just forget about that hand, put your focus on the more important aggressive situations that you've got going for you. So the first thing, because you fold more, you avoid tough out of position calling hands. You know, it's tough when you're out of position. Everybody hates being out of position. Less calls mean less out of position play. Remember, when you call, you've capped your range. When all you're doing is 2-betting and 3-betting and 4-betting, your range is wide open. You have some bluffs in there, but you also have the strongest aces, kings, queens, ace, king, all that jazz. And what often happens when you call with the jack-8 suited, the king-10 suited, you should expect to just be check folding on most flops. And let's take a look at a hand, king-10 suited right here. So I'm in the big blind, king-10 suited, often a calling hand, totally fine to call, especially if you end the action. The under-the-gun player open raised. He's a 10-10 player, so probably tight and aggressive player. He open raised probably with a tight range. Everyone else folded, and the action is on me. I could have called, but I decided to fold the hand. And here's why. Well, for all the other reasons I said, I don't want to go out of position with just a king-10 suited against a tight under-the-gun player with a really strong range. If he has a king in his hand right now, it's ace-king, king-queen, or king-jack. Better than my king-10. If he has a 10, it's probably ace-10, maybe not queen-10 or jack, maybe jack-10. So there's one 10 that I beat in his range right now. But he's got all the pocket pairs. He's got all the strongest aces right now. It's just a really ugly spot. And let's take a look with Flopzilla Pro here. King-10 suited versus a tight open raising range, I only have 40% equity pre-flop. It's not the best spot to give him position, to give him a bread and butter spot. If we look at just king-10 suited by itself in Flopzilla Pro, I hit top pair or better, and the open-ended straight draw or better only 37% of the time. That means truly, because I'm out of position, 63% of the time I'm going to just be check folding. Why should I call 1.5 big blinds right now to just check fold almost 2 out of every 3 flops? I see no reason to do that. So what I end up doing, of course, is I end up folding, and that frees up that brain space for other tables, or for the very next hand when I'm in the small blind and I have the opportunity to maybe raise over a limper or open raise or whatever the situation might be. Now, the next tip for you, it is so much more fun to 3-bet than it is to call, whether you're in position or you're out of position 3-betting in the blinds. The great thing I love about 3-betting is that you take charge. You're sticking it back in your opponent's face. You're telling them, hey, when you call, you're basically telling your opponent, oh, my hand's not great, but I want to see the flop. And I'm probably going to check to you and let you see bet or not, right? But instead, when you 3-bet, you're taking charge. You're sticking it back in your opponent's face. And as we saw, aggression wins, so it's good to be aggressive. And you can attack the fish. In this 9-7 suited hand, let's take a look at this right now. Oh, got to start the hand from the beginning. Under the gun, posts a big blind. This fishy player, who is a 40/20 player, ISO raises to only 2 big blinds. If you think about it, if he's bluffing with Jack 4 offsuit, 2 big blinds is never going to get everyone to fold, right? If he's going for value with pocket aces, that's not getting enough value, just making it 2 big blinds. This is basically a very weak bet, demonstrating or telling me that this is a weak player. I want this player all to myself. So what happens? I decide to 3-bet to 8 big blinds. And during this past month, I've been testing out different 3-bet sizes, min raising to just 5 big blinds, making it 7, making it 8, just testing out different things, see what I can do. But I have 9-7 suited on the button, and I'm 3-betting truly in an effort to get this fish heads up. Or, if everyone folds, great. I take down a 4.5 big blind pot with a simple 3-bet pre-flop. So instead of calling with 7-9, I'm 3-betting. Everyone folds, it gets back to the raiser who just calls. So now I have an uncapped range. I got aces, kings, queens, ace, king in my range. It is 9-7 suited. But he doesn't know that, obviously, right? The flop comes down at 7-5-5. He checks, so I have top pair, a 9 kicker right there. 7-5-5, I've got 7-9. Now, I know players like this. They do not want to give up on a hard-to-hit board like 7-5-5. They don't want to give up with ace 10, with king jack, with queen 8. They still have 2 overcards they're going to potentially call and hand me value right now. And I also, if I were to check right here, I just allow him to catch an overcard or an overpair to beat my top pair right now. I don't want to do that, right? So I bet for value, and he ends up calling on the 7-5-5 board. I bet half pot or so. The deuce comes, so the board is 7-5-5 deuce. He checks to me. I am not going to let him, because the deuce doesn't scare me at all, I'm not going to check behind and let him catch a free ace, king, queen, jack, 10 to suddenly beat my top pair of 7s. I'm double barreling. Half pot, once again, going for value. He ends up folding, but this is the power right here of tackling the fish. He gave me value with, I guarantee you, what was 2 overcards, and that he just wasn't able to pull the trigger on another call, but he gave me that pre-flop 8 big blinds right there, and then on the flop, another 8.8 big blinds. Absolutely love this hand. It happened because I was willing to target the fish with a 3-bet instead of calling and allowing other players to play against that fish too. Love that one. Now, sometimes you're dealt a no-brainer call. It's the kind of call that everybody would just call no matter what, just because it makes sense to call. Maybe you're set mining, you have a suited connector, it's a really small bet, whatever the reason is, right? But you cannot call during this challenge. So you have to think about the value of 3-betting, and this is a great training tool to force you, dang it, I can't call, but I want to play this hand. What can I do? 3-betting is probably the answer, right? Forces you to think about 3-betting. If it's a bluffing hand, like you would rather he fold, can he find a fold? You got to ask yourself that. Does he have a wide range? Has he demonstrated a history of folding in the past? Is he out of position and you're thinking about 3-betting in position, giving him some incentive to fold right there? Or if you're kind of debating on calling, but you have a decent hand, like let's imagine you would often call with ace-jack, but if you 3-bet with ace-jack, can he call with worse? Can he call with ace-10, ace-9, king-jack, queen-jack? If so, it's a value 3-bet. Now, you haven't hit a pair yet with your ace-jack, but if he can call with worse, it is a value 3-bet as well. Let's take a look at a hand, pocket 8s on the button. So in this hand right here, villain, 40/20 player, open raises. It might be the same villain as the other hand where I 3-bet. I'm not sure. Now, he open raises to 3 big blinds. I have pocket 8s. For most people, this is a no-brainer, just set mining opportunity. And not just set mining, I'm on the button. So if he checks, I can bet and potentially steal on the flop. But we're not calling. We're raising and folding only. So I decided to 3-bet, and I made it 9 big blinds. Just really give the impression that I'm going for value right here. I like my hand. And everybody folds. Awesome. So this is a spot where I could have called to set mine and tried to win a big pot, or call just to bet when he checks the flop. But I still won the pot with a simple 3-bet pre-flop, and I took down a 4.5 big blind pot, bam, lickety split, instead of calling and then worrying about maybe this loose aggressive big blind player 3-bet squeezing me. Didn't have to worry about that, and I didn't have to worry about hitting anything on the flop. I didn't have to worry about him checking on the flop either. Took it down with that bet, absolutely love it. Now, the last tip I have for you is you have to look ahead for 3-betters before open raising, because once again, you cannot call. Maybe you often open raise with ace-queen, somebody 3-bets and you call. Ace-king, somebody 3-bets, you call. But you are not allowed to call here, right? So you want to look ahead at the rest of the table, look for loose aggressive and tight aggressive players, look for 3-bet percentage over 6%, especially if you're on a long-term tracking site like America's Card Room or Poker Stars, where you can have thousands of hands on a player. But if not, at a minimum, just look for prior 3-bets made, because that'll clue you in. If you have a lot of 3-betters left to act, you're probably better off just folding, not opening yourself up to facing a 3-bet. Let's take a look at this hand right here. So I have ace-7 suited. I'm in the hijack and under the gun because one player is missing at the table. Let's look at our remaining opponents. Whatever I do right here, we still have 4 players left to act. The first to my direct left in the cutoff is a tight aggressive player, 22/22, who has 3-bet once already out of 6 opportunities. Another player on the button, 33/27, no 3-bets yet out of 5 opportunities, but he's a loose aggressive player, and they're always capable of 3-betting, right? The player in the small blind only has a 40 big blind stack. He looks tight at 11/11, but he's 3-bet already once out of 7 times. He's capable of 3-betting. He's demonstrated that ability to do that before. And this last player in the big blind right here, 67/39, who has 3-bet 2 out of 8 times. So everybody remaining at the table, I have ace-7 suited. Everybody is capable of 3-betting here. And if I face a 3-bet, I can't call, but I wouldn't even want to call. It's ace-7 suited. I'd rather just fold against anybody's 3-bet, basically, right? Even if they're capable of bluffing me. I don't want to bluff catch with an ace-7 suited, hope they have king-queen suited, something like that. No. I would exit versus a 3-bet. So what did I do? I just folded instead of open raising. Now the button open raised, small blind fold, the big blind just called, so nobody made a 3-bet in this hand, but everybody was capable of it. So just to avoid the 3-bet, save myself any facing 3-bet headaches, I folded and exited the hand. All right, thank you so much for watching the video. I highly recommend, if you have not done this challenge for yourself yet, please do it. smartpokerstudy.com/pod393 for all the details on how to do this challenge for yourself. Once again, my main takeaways, I absolutely loved it. I really learned it, drilled the point home that aggression wins, that folding is okay, and it forced me, when I wanted to play a hand, but I can't call, it forced me to find more 3-betting opportunities and pull the trigger on them. I basically trained myself to become a more aggressive and a more winning player with this one. All right, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.